If you're wondering whether university might be right for you, in this video we're going to talk about how to decide whether university is right for you as an individual, also what the pros and cons are of going to university and in what circumstances you might want to choose the degree versus going for the other route, and looking at what those other options are. And at the end I'll give you some really solid advice that's going to help you decide and make that choice whether you're going to go for university, delay, or go for something completely different. If you haven't got a clear idea in your head, here are some things that you could consider. First, you could take a year out and even go traveling or something. That's what I did before university, and it was one of the best things I ever did because it gave me that maturity and that self-reliance that when I did start university, I was so much better prepared for it. Maybe you want to speak to a careers counsellor and get an idea of what flavours of career are out there and things that might suit you. I went to a local library and there was a book of careers that I had a look at and kind of got an idea for how much you'd earn, what the lifestyle would be like, and just generally what you'd be doing day to day in each of the varied jobs. The other thing that you could do is go to a careers fair where they will tell you a bit more about each individual career. Similarly, you could go to what they call university open days. So if you're not sure about university at this stage, I'd recommend just going to your biggest local university. And what they do with these open days is, as it suggests, open the university up for you to have a feel of what university life would be like, but then they'll also show you what courses are on offer to give you a flavour of whether some of those might interest you. Now, one final thing I would recommend is to go and get a minimum wage job, because for me, although I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time, it definitely showed me what I didn't want to do, because I was 14 and it was almost certainly illegal, but I did a cash in hand job at a local garden centre where I spent hours all day just weeding plants and grafting really hard and getting basically £20 for it, definitely an illegal amount. But for me, doing that, I realised that I didn't want to work that hard doing manual labour for all day just to get a small amount. And that's not me even saying that I didn't want to do a manual labour job, it's that if I was going to do hard graft like that, I at least wanted to do it in a skill or a trade that would give me a high amount of earnings per hour so that it would justify putting all those hours in. And once you've got a rough idea of what career you want to go down, the next question you might want to ask yourself is, do I actually need a degree for that career? Now here's a list of some of the professions that do need a degree, but even those are changing. For example, doctors, they are doing an apprenticeship so you don't actually have to go to university anymore. But these vocations or vocational type degrees are the ones that typically you will need a degree if you want to go into that career. Because say you decide that you don't want to go to university, there are lots of alternatives. For example, you can have apprenticeships. So if you want to learn a trade like plumbing or being an electrician or something like that, you can go through an apprenticeship, which is a practical learn on the job, and you get paid from the moment that you start, usually supplemented with a day of college a week, or maybe a little bit more or a little bit less depending on the apprenticeship. Now there's another type of apprenticeship called a degree apprenticeship, which you can learn in these subjects here, where you are again working on the job, earning a salary, but also learning on the side that is going to give you a degree at the end. So you can gain a degree in medicine whilst working and earning in hospital to avoid all the debts and the student loans that we'll talk about in a moment, as a big part to consider for whether you can afford or whether you want to be indebted from going to university. And finally, another route that you consider is something called vocational training, which is a little bit like a short university. You'll go to college and learn something to then go on and do a job. Consider these things like hairdressing, some of the manual trades, or healthcare, where you learn the skills in college and then you're ready to go and start the job after, rather than the apprenticeships, which are a bit of a blend of everything. Now going back to university, let's look at some of the pros and some of the cons of actually going to uni so that you can decide whether it's good for you. So I'll pop them on screen now. The first is the networking opportunities, and that is the people that you meet, the connections that you make with other people in industry, but really the friends as well. Of course, you learn specialised knowledge by taking on a degree. You have higher earning potential by going to university, and we'll talk about the differences in salaries between graduates and non-graduates later. It's a great opportunity for self-development. At university, you have what you call societies, which are like groups of any interest, so anything from the football team to other sports, but then it can be even random things like the Harry Potter Society, or just the most random interest that you might have. There's probably a society for it. It's a great chance to meet like-minded people. You get obviously a degree, so it's a formal recognition of the skills that you have. And then finally, I think a very underrated thing and overlooked is that it is a very socially acceptable way of goofing off, if you will, while you try and figure out what you want to do. As we said before, you may not know what you want to do yet, and that is totally fine. But one way to take the pressure off you of Uncle Roy at the Christmas party being like, "What are you doing with your life, son?" And if you say you're at university, they will usually maybe cut you some slack for a few years while you're getting that degree. Whereas that time will allow you a bit of time to figure out what you want to do. Now, on the other hand, there are some downsides to it. One is the cost. You will take on student loans and some debt, which will follow you around for a while, and I'll talk about that in a moment. A degree will give you a better chance of getting a job, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee one. You don't get as much practical experience in university when, say, compared to an apprenticeship. There's the potential for burnout. It can be stressful. Exams are stressful. There's a lot going on. You have a hectic social life. Maybe if you join a sports team, you'll have those commitments. And then when you have coursework and exams and all of that stuff that goes with it, it can sometimes be a stressful time. It delays your entry to the workforce. There are things like, say, if you started a business or if you were in a job like, say, fashion, where it's actually more about who you know, then these are years that you could be building that career and building those connections or building those business skills, and it's taking away from that. So it's not necessarily the answer for everybody. Now, the thing to bear in mind is university is expensive. It costs to pay the fees to the university. You'll have your rent if you're staying there, or if you're staying in halls of residence. You've got the costs, and university usually involves a lot of going out, a lot of paying for stuff, and it isn't cheap to do that. So there are things to bear in mind, but the government will give you a loan. So the university fees at the moment that we're doing this video are around £9,000. So if you're having a 3-year degree, that's obviously 27, it's actually more, but £27,000 for that 3-year period. Now you have to pay that back eventually when you start working. Now that tuition fee loan goes directly to the university, so you never see it, but it does pay for your fees. The other one that you do get is a maintenance loan. Now this is to help you with your day-to-day costs, like your rent, your bills, and maybe that drinking money if you're going out or whatever, whether you're going out for meals. This is the money that goes into your bank account and is to help you sustain yourself. It's means tested, so the amount can vary quite widely, and some people will supplement this with doing a job while they're at university. So they might do a little bit of part-time work. Often the universities have a student job centre so that you can do gig work, like stuff at the weekend, odd jobs here and there to help boost your income. Now the thing to bear in mind with this is that around 2016, the government changed student loans and the amount of interest that you pay to be about 6% and probably above now that inflation is high. And it is no longer the no-brainer that it once was, because 6% that accumulates over time does actually end up being quite difficult to pay back, and that money does rack up. So it's not something to just take lightly, because you will probably be paying your student debt back for quite a long time. So you start to pay this back as soon as you earn over £25,000 a year. Now, for example, let's say you're earning £28,000 a year, so £3,000 over that threshold. You pay 9 pence on the pound for every bit over that threshold. So for £3,000 over the threshold, 9 pence on the pound, that would be £270 over the year, which is about £22 a month. Now the thing to bear in mind is, while you're chipping away slowly at that pot of money that you've borrowed, that debt that you've gained, is accruing interest. So, you know, you're in a bit of a race to try and pay it back quickly so that it doesn't accumulate and get too big. But that is usually taken automatically from your pay, like I say, for every pound that you earn over that £25,000. Now we talked about pay and looked at how much you can earn whether you're a graduate, so you've got a university degree, versus a non-graduate. Now remember that nothing is guaranteed, but these are some typical values from the research data that's out there. So for graduates, you typically have a higher starting salary, particularly in fields like medicine, engineering, of course, greater long-term potential for earning, eligible for graduate schemes which can pay well for an entry-level job, versus non-graduates, you can begin earning an income straight away out of school, but it's variable earning potential. Some industries like skilled trades offer high salaries without a degree, and then you can start a business. So entrepreneurial opportunities, you can start your own business and enter industries where experience is valued over education. So again, more time to rack up those connections, those skills, and just get a lot better and progress more during that time that you would have spent at uni. But probably the thing you're most concerned about is pay. So on average, people in their mid-20s, if they have a degree, they earn 20% more than people who don't. But that gap also expands that when people are 31, those with a degree earn about 37% more than those without. So you've heard a lot of all of that, so here's my advice. Firstly, don't panic. Don't just take any old degree because you feel like you want to go to university and you don't want to miss out. I know at the age of 17, 18, when you're thinking about going to university, an entire year of not doing something feels really like a waste of time, and it's really scary to do that. But I assure you, as that old saying goes, it's better to be at the bottom of the right ladder than at the top of the wrong one. And it is worth taking that little bit of time to work out yourself, what you want, what your aims are, what lifestyle you want, what's important to you, what your values are, and that is going to really help you and direct you as to what career suits those things that are important to you. But if you aren't sure and you delay, you'll not only have a little bit more time to figure it out, you'll also probably have a few friends who are at university themselves. So that means you can go and visit them, have a great time, see whether it's right for you, and try loads of different universities as well. But the second bit of advice that I would say is that going to university definitely does have a sell-by date. And I'd say past the age of 22, 23, your university experience will be very different because you'll be 5 years older than most people who are starting, and your interests and kind of what you'll want to spend your time doing will be very different. And that window of opportunity for a certain type of university experience will close. Now, I went to university at the age of 19 because I took a gap year, went traveling, like I said. But then I actually did a second degree in dentistry. So my first one was in medicine, my second one was in dentistry. And I did that at the age of 27. And I can tell you for sure, although I still enjoyed it and had a great time, the two experiences were completely different. So if you want that university experience and you want to have that, by all means, don't rush, don't panic, and take your time to decide what's right. But at the same time, don't leave it too late because you'll be a very different person 5 years on from when you originally planned to do it, and you will have a very different experience, like I said. So I hope you found that useful. If you want to know more stuff about university, choosing careers, how to get in, all of that good stuff, you might want to check out the channel and subscribe and turn on notifications because every week we put out at least one video. But if you want to find something that's going to really help you with something specific that's important for university, I recommend that you check out this video here. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video.